advocating for, mafia, for criminality, but there is this all-pervasive sense that we are colonized by the nation state, and that's why there is this kind of fascination or interest in all of our media with criminality, with law breaking, precisely because the law itself has become dubious. And we have to differentiate ourselves from criminals in our morals. We are forest rebels. The forest, we use it for cover and concealment to move around. We have a philosophy, unlike mafias. But this label of the criminal, it's something that the state has put on us. And the true criminals, they are the true criminals. We all know about their pedo rings, and I'm not going to go into conspiracies, but even just the banal kind of everyday evil. For example, 2 million dead in Iraq. So when they come and they say that our software and our networks, which are for human freedom, are used by criminals, they're hypocrites, because they are the real criminals. And everybody that advocates for crypto regulation is doing an open and official provocation against liberty and sovereignty. And all of those who advocate for it are domestic enemies of the people, and they must be absolutely opposed, because the right of people to keep and deploy cryptography should not be infringed. So all of these projects, which they're based off of the RegFi narrative, they advocate for regulation, and their whole thing is that as much as the regulators work with them, they can kind of get into the halls, not really into the halls of power, but like kind of on the doorstep, catching the crumbs from the master, but they'll never really be in. And as soon as that power turns against them and says, hey, you're breaking the law, their entire narrative kind of crumbles down, because they become criminals. Whereas DarkFi draws power from that. That's why DarkFi is powerful, because the more that they crack down on DarkFi, the more it validates our thesis. The more that we say, look, this is the reality of the nation state of power unmasked. This is what they're really about. And there's a video of this on YouTube that we made. It's called Lunapunk and the Dark Side of the Cycle by Rekt, R-E-K-T. You can find that. And it's basically, crypto now is, it's in a moral crisis, and it's coming up to a kind of fork in the road where things bifurcate, where people have to pick a side. And, the more that governments crack down on crypto, the more it drives people into either of these two camps. And the RegFi just bolts it down. It becomes useless. It becomes unusable. You need to KYC, so many restrictions. But the true crypto goes to the underground, to the, this is what we call DarkFi. This is why we call ourselves DarkFi. And the more that they crack down, the more that we allow unhindered, free use of crypto technologies, and the more that they see that they're powerless, and the more that they become more restrictive. And so therefore, and this could be a very healthy thing for crypto, because it allows crypto to come into its own being. A lot of people have said, like, oh, all this stuff, all this software that we thought would be made in 2012, we were like, oh yeah, the crypto anarchy revolution is just around the corner, just going to happen. We can just relax, and it will unfold. Hasn't happened. It's kind of like we need to mobilize. We need to move towards making that reality happen. And all these other people that have come in, all these, charlatans, key opinion leaders, influencers, all the people that control the levers of power. Because how does the system work? The system prints the money, and then they put it in their funds. And the funds are like, oh yeah, I'll allocate a bit to crypto. And then they're staffed with a bunch of yes men And then crypto projects, they're like they're like, oh yeah, we're going to change the world. We're going to unlock human freedom, human potential, but we're going to sell our tokens to these people who are getting money from the state, essentially. And then those people are like, oh yeah, you can't talk about any of that ideology stuff. It's not good. And so everybody, and that's why all the projects become cut. And then they've got too much money, and they hire HR people, and they like blow all their staff. They don't create real value. So that's the like state that we're in. And maybe this apocalyptic extinction level event, which destroys 90% of all those people that don't believe in anything, just there for the money essentially. And maybe they talk about ideology on Twitter, but as much as it like suckers you in the audience, those people go like, then when the money dries up, they're like, oh okay, like I'm gonna go into AI now. That's the new thing, whatever bullshit. So, and yeah, when you look at now how they're cracking down on crypto, Tornado Cash, Samurai, there's like a whole bunch of things that you can discuss, but I've discussed three of them, which is, firstly, in the court proceedings, you can see all their internal chats are public, like, and they're going like, oh, this guy, he's obviously a ringleader, he's obviously a guy that's responsible for running this project, therefore, he's responsible for this product, which is used for, buying sweaters online, as an example, whatever. So that's one thing, the communications. So, yeah, we see all these projects are like, yeah, we're anonymity, privacy project. Join our Discord, put it in the trash, into the trash it goes. Second, they have a DAO, and they're like, oh yeah, we're in a DAO, yeah. And then they're like, oh, but you control, X percent of tokens, 50% of the tokens. This is like a public shareholder company. So you actually own this DAO, you own this treasury. So we're going to that's another reason they get sent to jail. And thirdly, running infrastructure. They're like, oh yeah, it's a wallet for, privacy mixing, but there's a guy running a server. So they're not really peer-to-peer. In the case of Tornado Cash, it's the limitation of Ethereum. Just a little side note, FYI, where Ethereum, if I do a mix with you, I need to pay the fee for the transaction. So how do I pay that fee? If I pay that fee, I dox myself. So you need some kind of thing called a relayer, and that's what they were hosting, and that's what they got done on. So it's actually an architectural problem in ETH as well. So, yeah, so in DarkFi now, so we are already, we don't use Discord or any of that. We use our own fully anonymous peer-to-peer chat. So all of the messages are unlinkable. So if I say something, then, and this is just like a daemon, but with an IRC client joined to the front end. So if I say something, and then, later someone goes, oh, you said that with that nickname. It's like, no, anybody could say that. I've got plausible deniability because all the messages are completely unlinkable. So, okay, you've got a peer-to-peer network. How do you stop people spamming? We can use rate limit nullifiers because you stake some money, and every epoch, you can only send like one message. That epoch could be like 5 seconds, for example. And if you send 2 messages in an epoch, people can do a kind of reverse Shamir secret sharing scheme, calculate your private key and slash you. So it's not that you're like paying for every single message, but to be able to post, you need to stake. And if you spam the network, then you get slashed. And there's a fully anonymous way to do that. And so you can send messages, and all the messages are unlinkable. And then people go, oh, well, if it's anonymous, how can you do about like trust and stuff like that? Well, we have private groups, we have DMs. Actually works very well, anonymous systems, in my opinion. And so we don't have to use Discord. We don't have to use any centralized, we don't have to run any centralized instance like, before we were using Matrix. We had 250 people in our room. It was lagging. It was slow. It's crappy software. Not only that, Matrix messages are linkable. You have an account. Every time you send a message, they're linked. So we have our own system that's fully anonymous. We also use it for tasks, issue tracking, so we don't need to use GitHub. So it's about minimizing your dependence on centralized infrastructure. Just a side note, we didn't get around to making the Git backend yet, but we're using Codeberg, where you can make anonymous accounts with Tor. You can commit to the project fully anonymously as a developer. So you have a complete closed ecosystem that's completely anonymous. That's the first thing about the chats, like linking what people say to what they do. Originally, we wanted to speak very freely about the project, not have to hide in private groups out of fear of retribution. We want the community to be involved, so we were like, we have to have a public space where we can be fully anonymous. I don't know any other software that exists that allow you to be fully anonymous like this on linkable messages. So that's the first thing about implication. The second thing about DAO membership, being a member of a DAO, having a stake. We made the world's, and as far as I know, the only fully anonymous DAO where all the members are completely anonymous. The tokens, the governance tokens, the actions, the treasury, everything about the DAO is completely anonymous. The voting, you can't link. It's just something that's encrypted on the blockchain. You can't see anything that's happening, and there's you can have a treasury there and you can manage it. That's the second issue. They cannot sanction a DAO they don't even know exists, or a DAO that they can't even see what's happening, how many people are in it, or what's what. It's completely dark. Thirdly, infrastructure. We need to create software that's fully peer-to-peer. So, 2 minutes. Oh, fuck. Okay, DarkFi will be merge mined with Monero, so I'll just shoot that now.
Amir, I'm not going to cut you off, man. Just do your talk, okay?
Okay, Node Explorer, other command line tools, you can see. Okay, I hate the web. I hate the web browser. I think the web was a mistake. I also hate UI frameworks. I think people are writing garbage software that looks ugly. It lags. Like when you open Signal, it's full of white space everywhere. You open these apps and they've got like massive buttons with like 20 pixel border around them, and I just can't use that. And I remember, and in the 90s, we were promised a future of tech that was so cool, and we didn't get that. So, yeah, FOMO, I feel like I'm missing out. So we want to recreate that experience. And so now, instead of making, like the thing where people use MetaMask and, they make a browser app, that's another thing, hosted front ends. So now we're making our own platform where you can load plugins into it. And this is just so far, we've been working on the chat app and the wallet app, but it's like plugins into one application, and it's written in OpenGL, so it's our own UI framework that we're creating, because then you have the full power and the full flexibility to really create experience that is sci-fi and magical, with all the security properties that you want, and allowing people to download the apps peer-to-peer, self-hosted, without putting anybody in the way of liability. As Darkfire, what we're really shooting for is to expand the design space of anonymity and possibility for users. Right now, there's this kind of meme, I've heard it a few times, goes, privacy's normal. And it's like, no, that's saying privacy's normie, essentially. it's like, no, privacy is exceptional. It's like special. It's like something valuable, and so like, and this is also part of the thing with Monero as well. They have they're like, oh, privacy's cool. You know, that's what we're rally, because privacy until now hasn't like, everybody's like, oh, why isn't it taken off as a narrative? It's like, because, you know, we haven't rallied people in terms of like the mimetic complex. So yeah, I will. So in terms of, so yeah, I finished. So I'll just say that, you know, for developers as well, you know, we're providing you a comfy home. So, you know, join our chat, come work on something meaningful, have the opportunity to participate in the upside of a project early. You know, let's change this thing. So thank you.